So does anyone have any suggested topic for today? Anything at all from anyone?
No.
Is there anything you'd like to speak about, Didi? Because I could mention something.
We have also Bimala's joined us. Dandavad, Bimala. Her video's not on. She's here. Prabhu, you please, if you have some suggestion, now please go ahead.
It's a little complicated, but so we have this in the Bhagavad-Gita. Krishna is telling us, just do your duty, all results will go to me. But and not to be attached to the results. That's what he says, not to be attached to the results. But when we do something, obviously it's our nature that we want the result to be good. So where is that I guess connection between being detached and being disinterested in the results? Because we do something, we want it to be good, but how do we merge those two ideas, that I want something to turn out well, but I also want to be detached from the result?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I just want to greet Bimala Didi. Bimala, look who's with me here. Here's Ash. And Govindanandini is also here. Dandavad. Yeah, very nice question. See, the main point here for those in the Vaishnava school is that we want, now, because one thing we have to remember is that a lot of the advice in Bhagavad-Gita, it's going more towards like Brahma Gyan, There isn't the positive aspect of dedication, it's not so developed within Bhagavad-Gita. It's more like, so like what you've described, it's actually a principle of karma yoga, right? Karma Nyava, this is in chapter 3, right? 347, I think, or is it 247? Karma Nyeva Dikadaste Mafaleshu Karachanama Karma Full Hetubur Mate Sango Karmani. That we should not, that our, Krishna is saying here 3 points, that our right is to our duty. Our adhikar is for our karma, our duty here in this context. We have a right to do our duty. However, we don't have a right for the fall, for the results, for the fruits of our duty, of our activity. So therefore, our activity should not be performed motivated by any desire, personal desire, nor should we be tempted to give up our duty because we're not entitled to the results of it. This is like foundational principle of Nishkam Karma Yoga. I see Robert has his Bhagavad-Gita out. Jai. So, this is like Bhagavad-Gita is more on this side, like removing the false ego, removing our self-centered action. But then the positive side, it's not developed so much, So sometimes we say, it's said, Bhagavad-Gita, it's like where Bhagavad-Gita ends, that's where Bhagavatam begins. Then Srimad Bhagavatam is picking up the thread of Bhagavad-Gita and going further in so many places, going further into exploration of the positive devotional mood, And there are a few different references, right, where we can say Bhagavad-Gita is giving this level of instruction, and then Bhagavatam's picking it up and going higher, going beyond that. So Krishna says, tolerate everything, and then Bhagavatam is saying, yeah, tolerate everything, but also see how the Lord's mercy is behind that. Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna is saying, give up everything and surrender unto me. And then Bhagavatam is telling us how you will do that. what you will do, and what's the important, what is the position of the Vaishnava, you know. So Bhagavad-Gita is more on like the, you know, removing the dirt, and then Bhagavatam is what you're establishing on that platform, you know. Of course, Bhagavad-Gita is also discussing devotion, but there's not so much detail. It's not in a developed way. So the point that you're mentioning, what's important for those in the practice of devotion is that we are removing our selfish interest in our endeavors, right? And we want to be attached to Krishna's will. You know, we want to be attached to fulfilling, you know, Krishna's desires, the desire of Guru, Gauranga, Vaishnava, Hari, Guru, and Vaishnava. You know, we want to act in their interest. You know. So it's not bad to have attachment, you know, and we want to be attached to fulfilling that higher will, that higher desire. We want to be attached to doing things nicely for their higher satisfaction. So this is where things get complicated in the practice, because the nature of bhakti is that it's all inclusive, right? Like everyone on board, no matter where you are. So there's whereas in the karma yoga, in the yoga systems, yoga, karma yoga, ashtanga yoga, there's more of like a systematic development. Like before you get to one stage, you have to pass the previous stage. You have to clean the previous stage, and then before you become qualified for the next stage. And of course, there's an element of that in bhakti, but there's this broadness and there's this all-inclusiveness, so that, you know, there's a real mix, you know. And so this is actually something that some persons who like come from a yoga background, they sometimes struggle with when they come to our communities, because they're expecting a bunch of like very peaceful, you know, Zen Buddhists or something, you know. You know, people who come from that background, like yoga, Buddhism, they come to our temples and sometimes they're a little surprised or a little disturbed even, because they see everyone is full of desires and there's lots going on, you know. You know, and there was one time, one respectable, I don't remember who it was exactly, some respectable gentleman in Calcutta, he visited one of the Gaudiya Mats. I think it was the Chaitanya Mat. And then afterwards he complained to Srila Saraswati Thakur, and he said like, you know, I'm very disappointed. Like everyone in your temple, I see they have this fault and they have that fault, and like what kind of an example is this? Like I'm expecting everyone to be perfect in the temple. And Saraswati Thakur said, this is the hospital. You know, this is the hospital. So because the nature of bhakti is so, it's all inclusive, it's accommodating, it's broad, and it's accepting everyone from whatever point they are at. It's mentioned in there's a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, you know, akarma sarva kama va moksha kama, saying that whether you have no desires, or whether you are full of desires, or whether you're desiring liberation, you can only be considered wise if you are serving Sri Krishna, something like that. It's like everyone on board, you know, no matter where you are. So the point that I'm making here is that, you know, like we are coming to practice devotion from an unclean platform. It's not like our gurus are told, first you have to come to the position of desirelessness, and then you can begin to practice bhakti. You know, some people go that route, but it's not required, you know. So we're coming to practice bhakti and we're very mixed. We have our own, ego-driven desires, and it's also mixed with some desire to serve, genuine desire to serve Guru and Gauranga, to satisfy their will. So the challenge that we face is when and this is where it's helpful actually, when we become disappointed, we're trying to fulfill a particular objective in our service life, and where we become frustrated, there's some obstacle, we can't carry it through. It's actually helpful for us in those moments to re-examine ourselves and to ask ourselves, like, why am I disappointed exactly? Is it only because I wasn't able to satisfy my Gurudev's desire? I wasn't able to fulfill the needed service? Or is it because my ego is a little hurt? I wasn't able to do what I said I would do, or people are going to look down on me or be disappointed in me. Those moments, they give us, good pause, a good opportunity to reflect on that, to do some introspection, look within our hearts, like, what were my motivations exactly? And now I'm seeing it's a little mixed. Let me clean this out, throw this part away, and reaffirm my desire to only satisfy the will of Guru and Gauranga. And then, if we are on that, and then, speaking in terms of, speaking in principle, let's say, assuming we are acting, so we're just speaking in principle, not saying we're actually there, but let's say we actually are carrying out a service fully 100% with the desire to satisfy Guru and Gauranga, and that fails, or we're not able to, then what's the proper response? Do we, this is going more to your question, do we just say, oh, well, we just detach, it's okay, it's, Christians didn't want it, forget about it, don't care? No, that's not really the devotional mood. That would be more the mood of a jnani. That's not really the devotional mood. No. But the point here is that there must be a mood of surrender. Okay, this is what I wanted for my Gurudev, or even this is what my Gurudev wanted. But for some reason or other, Krishna is not allowing that. So we have to submit to that will. Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he mentioned in regards to the breakdown of the Gaudiya Math, there was a lot of fighting, dispute, division. There was one comment of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where he said, what happened, it was not appreciable. However, we must accept that it was Krishna's will, and from the absolute perspective, it was good. It had its purpose. So there was one time. This is something that Kumkum Didi told me, actually, which is very interesting and I find very instructive. Because remember, the pure devotees, they don't have any desire for themselves, And so Gurudev, he was expressing some desire that some devotee who was struggling with some very heavy anarthas, that they could become adjusted. And then he said, this is my desire, that, they can become well, they can become free from these troubles. However, I don't know if Krishna will allow that, And this is one of the most profound things I've, heard from Gurudev's heart. And he quoted this verse, the last verse of Shikshashtakam. Ashlishava pararitam pinashtumam adarshan marmahatam kurutuva yatatata vidadu lampato mat pranana tas tusa eva napada. this verse expressing, the acme of surrender, that, oh, Krishna, you can treat me however you like. You can embrace me, you can ignore me, you can reject me, but I have no one else other than you. My love, my devotion to you remains steadfast, no matter how you treat me. So I found this astounding, that this very high expression of surrender, Srila Gurudev was applying that in his desire to help a struggling practitioner. Like that was the intensity of his desire to help that practitioner. And he's surrendering to Krishna's will, that Krishna may not allow that. So like how much deep love, and this is a devotee also who's not not particularly prominent in the mission, but someone who Gurudev had affection for and had done some service in the mission. So this is how we move. We are trying to identify, what is the desired service, but ultimately we have to surrender to what Krishna's will is. And it's normal and healthy that we will have attachment, But see, another thing, what complicates things in our case is that, we're conditioned souls, and we don't necessarily know like what's the proper service at this time, right? So that's another thing we have to factor in. That our idea may have been, in the case of Gurudev, it's different, because we know like whatever and Srila Sridhar, it's like whatever their desire, whatever their vision is, it's perfect, right? So that's not an issue. But in our case, there are other things that are clouding the issue. And those are the two primary things that come to mind now are our ego, that we're investing energy in this partly for our own, prestige, for our own pratishtha. And then another factor is misjudgment, lack of vision, and lack of understanding, because, we all carry out service on the basis of our level of understanding in Krishna consciousness. And this is something that can be a little tricky to harmonize within a mission. How to place everyone so that they can fully express themselves to the maximum according to their degree of realization in harmony with everyone else. So like what I mean to say is, on day one that we join, there are certain services that we will prioritize. We think this is all important. As our understanding develops, there are other services that we will think are more important. So this is something that can be a challenge to harmonize within a mission. But anyway, in the context of this discussion, I'll say that, we want to keep that room of some room for healthy self-questioning. Like, I thought this service was very necessary, but maybe it's not so necessary. It's healthy if we all, I think back to myself, like when I first became really enthusiastic in the mission, and there are certain things I used to do, and I thought like, this is the be all and the end all, I've got to build this wall, or I've got to do this, or whatever it is, and you just think like, this is it, and anyone else who's not on board is bogus. This is the most important service in the temple right now. Why does everyone else not see that? What is wrong with them? I definitely went through a period like that, So we don't want to be like that. It's healthy to keep that room for that question mark. Like, is this service really necessary? Of course, if it's like descending directly from a reliable, senior Vaishnava, then you're safe, And even if they got it wrong, you're covered because you were acting in good faith, It didn't come from your own ego, your sincerity, your intentions were proper. So yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is like we're trying to see like which way is the current supposed to move, and we may try one thing, doesn't, and that's what we saw with Gurudev, right? Like he had some kind of a system he'd use sometimes, where he'd wait for 3 confirmations from the environment, and then he would do something, And then, or sometimes he like with the Vrindavan temple, like he was trying to build something in another piece of land, and then on off of the Parikrama path, and then there was a big storm, it was smashed. And then he decided to wait, and he actually waited for several years, And then I heard some recordings of him, like it was like 91, I think, where he was like mulling over, like deeply meditating on this. Like, I thought that was a good piece of land to build the temple, but that storm came. So I'm trying to understand, what is Guru Maharaj's desire? And he waited. He was like deeply contemplating that point. And then finally he had that mystical phone call, right? Rupa Goswami's phone call, and that land, next to the Radha Damodar temple, just kind of like landed on his lap, And then Gurudev went, oh, this was the divine will, So, am I making any sense?
Well, to that point, or what you're saying, because we're trying to do seva, devotional service, but as you mentioned, it's contaminated with all our material desires. We're conditioned souls.
Yeah.
Should we think that we're doing our duty, or we're doing devotional service? Because there is some need to be some purification in order to even perform devotional service properly. So how do those two intersect, like seva and your duty?
Well, we're practicing devotion. We can't say that we are performing devotion. No, but we always say that, right? That we're practitioners, and then and I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but I mentioned it recently to someone, that Srila Sridhar Maharaj made this comment that, love, obviously love is the highest impetus, pure love. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj made this comment, until we reach that level of divine love, we have duty. So we will conceive that we are doing our duty in practicing devotion, like that. And you see what the magic ingredient here is, the connection with Sri Guru, with the Sadguru. Because we are very fortunate, because our Guru has given some expressed directives, his desires, his devotees, his mission. And so, there's some real potency there. If we are trying to offer our service in fulfilling these things, what his expressed directives and desires were, then we're connecting with something real. Yes, we are contaminated, we are impure, but we're moving towards something real. and with the highest purifying potency. There's this wonderful quote of Srila Sridhar Maharaj where he says, to throw this mad concocted self to the feet of Krishna, like it is the greatest thing. And he said, you will be saved. That's what we're doing with our mad concocted selves. We're trying to offer ourselves at the feet of Guru and Gauranga. Something's going to happen in that transaction. The purification will come. And ultimately, this is another interesting point. The sadhana and the sadhya, they will merge into one. Like what was initially sadhana, our practicing life, our struggling practicing life, it will become perfected, and we'll be continuing to do the same thing. Oh, sadhya means goal. Yeah, so sadhana is the practice, and sadhya is the goal, the objective. So this is one interesting point. Abhideya, the abhideya and the sadhya, or also you can say in other words, and to use other terms, the abhideya and the prayojan. Sadhana, sadhya, abhideya, prayojan. They will merge into one. So yes, if we are carrying out our service life, we can think that, we're doing our duty, and we are practicing devotion. And when we cross over the practicing stage, we'll keep doing the same thing. But the consciousness will be wholesale different, transformed.
Didi, I remember that. Yeah, I remember that one of the times when I was like recently with the devotees, and I was in Brazil, and I would travel to India from Brazil, and I would hear so much about service. Like when I would meet with all the devotees, Bhuvana Mohan, and they would meet every 2 weeks, and I would go there. And I would always ask, oh, what can I do? What can I do? And they would tell me, would give me things to do. And at the same time, they were talking, many things was going on. But to me, that I had something to do, it was very good. Although I couldn't participate sitting down and listening to the talk. And I was thinking, oh, okay, it's good. I am getting that too, which I didn't know what it was. And then when I traveled to India, I asked Gurudeva, when we had the darshan in the morning, in the afternoon, I asked Gurudeva, I hold my hand and I, Gurudeva, may I ask something? And he says, that's what I say. Gurudeva, what is service? What is service? Because, I like to help. I was helping, but I hear service, and I say, Gurudeva, what is service? Gurudeva answer was, he says, Bimala, if there is a chair here in this corner, and I tell you, just bring this chair here where I am, and you do that, this is service. So I always say this with me, because he is saying what the substance is. Just get that chair, I'm telling you, and bring it here. Here, put it here. And you do that, that is service. Because so I am always remembering that. Because I'm doing this, that, whatever. And many times I'm not sitting, even now, I'm not sitting to be in the class, or I'm doing something else and something nice is going on, some darshan, something. But I am always thinking, it's okay. I am getting that too. I am getting that. Although, I'm not. So I don't know. Could you help say more things about this?
No, that's very nice. I love that. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Vimala. I see we have Dwarkesh Prabhu with us today, and also Madhu Mangal, that's great, and also Ananda Srupani. Very exciting. Dandavad. You're all in the kitchen. Are you, you're cooking an evening offering or? Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Oh, okay. Well, so I'm happy Dwarkesh joined and he heard some good questions, because when I saw him in London, like in July, he was telling me that he said sometimes it seems like you're turning into an agony aunt. People call you with all their problems, and it's like you're an agony aunt, So you see, Dwarkesh, today we had substantial question from Chinmoy Prabhu. Like, who do they think you are?
God,
Dandavad. But that's. And also Chintamani Didi has joined us from Santa Barbara, and also Nanga Krishna Prabhu is here from Tijuana, Mexico. Dandavad. Oh, and Jayadev Prabhu is also here. Dandavad. So Chinmoy Prabhu, what are your thoughts?
Well, I like what Bimala had to say, because I think what Gurudev was intimating is that what Guru tells you, that is seva. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was my impression of what he was saying.
Yeah, what's descending from above, that we can be confident, that is going to take us forward. That's a genuine chant, even though we may be faulty. If we're connecting with that higher descending will, then it's a real transaction. It's a real transaction. Oh, today we have the other Seva Rupa who's also joined us. Wow, we have both Seva Rupas today. Dandavad, Seva Rupa Didi in Mexico. We want to introduce you to the other Seva Rupa in South Africa. It's really quite an extraordinary thing, that we are what we are. We are fallen conditioned souls, but if we can connect with that, with the service of a Vaishnava, we can get everything through that, Most encouraging and hopeful thing.
Yeah, because as like people who were on the veranda, close with Gurudev, they were very attached to their service, like, almost angry attached, don't get in their way type thing. So there's this like real need to be attached to your service, your connection.
Yeah, I mean, sure, and that's nice, but there needs to be that maturity that comes where we can, the attachment should be based on something more substantial, like what is Guru's desire, and not less like my involvement here, that's a more developed, but that's also nice. That's also good to have any kind of attachment to service is good, whether it's mixed or pure or whatever, But, you want to say something?
I was going to say that sometimes seva can also change its form. It's not always going to be the same form. So we had one service before, we did that service, and we felt that was the most important service, but then that service may also adjust. It's important to be aware of that service can change its form. So we also have to be careful not to hang on to something that maybe no longer is service anymore. It's also a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vishakha, maybe you could summarize there because she was very difficult to hear.
Oh. Brajamohini's saying that that we also have to be alert to the fact that our service may change. You know, service is something living and dynamic. And because sometimes we do see, you know, we've seen that, you know, Gurudev wants like kind of to give someone a promotion to another service, but there's that fear of letting go, you know, there's that fear of letting go of the service we had before. So it's a dynamic thing, and we have to be alert to that. That's what you're saying? Okay. Okay, yeah, that's what Brajamohini Ji was saying. Yeah. And, you know, and that's a point of evolution, actually, you know, to be able to let go sometimes, you know, and to be open to other service that is coming.
I mean, I think that's the example isn't that the example that he gives sometimes, is like, he says, you know, fetch me a glass of water, and then you go and get him the water, and then you bring him the water and they say, I don't want water, get me apple juice or whatever, you know, in that example. So service at one moment, and then at another moment, it has to, you have to be flexible. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a nice point.
I don't know if that's the proper example.
It's definitely relevant. Yeah. Yeah. Any other thought, Govindanandini? You have any thoughts on this subject matter?
I'm not able to pay full attention here, but the subject is so nice. So I want to hear everything later.
Yeah, we want to be instruments of that higher will. I think that's what it comes down to. We want to be instruments, and we have to be open to being whatever kind of instrument is needed at any given time. You know? So we have to have that fluidity, you know, not a rigidity that's based on our own egocentric attachment, but you know, we want higher, healthy attachment to fulfilling what is Guru's desire, what is Mahaprabhu's desire. So that requires a fluidity. Humility. Humility is actually a kind of fluidity. You know, that's the point Srila Sridhar Maharaj has made. You know, the ego is very rigid. You know, but you know, we have to be able like to move with the way the dance is flowing, you know.
It says humility is being open to infinite.
Humility is being open to infinite possibility. Brajamohini is quoting Srila Sridhar Maharaj.
Like one times I heard from Srila Maharaj that we should think like we're our Guru's property and Hari property and devotee's property, and then we just do the service as the best way we can do, but we offer, we will pray. I always, when I start a service, I pray, please use me as your property, and try to offer as the best I can do. But that's depend of the grace of my Guru. I will try to be her property, to do a real service. So the way how can we offer to Sri Hari, Sri Guru, and Sri Vaishnava, And that depends on them. It's very difficult. Sometimes I start a service and I said, oh, how can I do this service to my guru? The only way is that they use me as the property. That's as Siva Guru Maharaj says, many times as thing. So that's why I pray for them to use me as a property. And then in that way it will be it maybe can be a service. So the way how can I know if I offer a service in a real sincere way? Because I like you said, we're conditional souls. It's not easy to offer in a very sincere way the service. So we depend on the grace of our Guru and the Vaishnava. And so I always pray for them to use me as the property. And we try to do the best and offer what our heart can do. It's not easy. It's not easy. Sometimes it's hard to think about it. How can I know if I'm doing a real service? That's the grace of my Guru. I will pray, please use me as your property. And then by my way, I will have the chance. As your property, then I will be able to do the service. Otherwise, no chance. That's what I always think when I try to start a service. I pray. The three Gurus, devotees, three Haris, three Gurus, the Vaishnavas. And offer. Just to offer. There's no other way. Whatever. The result that depends on him. And after property, I'm going to add the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the devotees. Maybe it can be a service. We have to take that risk. It's a risk that we have to take every day when we start a service. That's the idea that I have. I don't know if we can.
That's perfect. That's very beautiful, Prabhu. Very beautiful. The surrendered soul, has that mentality, our interest, the Lord's interest is synonymous with our interest. As Prabhu said, we are the Lord's property. We don't have any separate agenda, separate identity, but it's, that there's that line of Srila Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, this is die to live also, and there's that line of Bhakti-Vinod Thakur, Tomar ichai mor, ichami shaila, Bhakti-Vinod aj, apane bulila, that Bhakti-Vinod Thakur is saying, my desires, they are merging with your desires, my Lord. Today, Bhakti-Vinod has forgotten himself. This is self-forgetfulness in the devotional conception. So, and I think Prabhu also said there, the result is a separate thing. That we are properly situated, that we are properly adjusted internally, that we are trying with the proper mood and the right way, to the right degree. That's where our focus is more. And how the result will come, that's another matter, what they decide, what they decide. Well, that's, the general, view and approach. Yeah. And it may, and another thing is that it may or may, going back to the original question, it may or may not be our place to analyze the result too much, right? That's something that will vary according to the circumstance. Like it may be simply like we do the service, we don't think about what happens afterwards. Like there was one time when devotee gave a big donation to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and then they asked, oh, so how are you going to use that money? And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, your job is finished. You don't worry about that. That's not, sometimes that is more important for us, to just be in that mood, in a surrendered mood of offering our service and not analyzing and calculating too much what's happening after that, like we made a beautiful offering And then afterwards, another devotee had the responsibility to, serve it out, and it wasn't done properly, but we have to let go. We played our part, we did our part properly. What happened after that, that was in someone else's area. So sometimes the focus will be more on that, and we do have to fully detach. In other cases, if there's more of an element of responsibility, we have more responsibility attached, then we may need to consider more, like, oh, maybe next time I need to do this differently. Maybe this isn't the required service, so there will be different points of emphasis. Oh, thank you, Ash. There will be different points of emphasis, according to the circumstances. Raini has joined us also.
Dandavad, Hare Krishna.
Dandavad, Raini, Dandavad.
Looks like you're in Texas again with
Texas with Ash.
Yay! Yay! Happy to see you guys. Happy to see you all, lovely Vaishnavas.
Okay, well, any final thoughts from anyone, or should we wind things up for today?
I saw somebody, there she is.
No, I'm sorry. Actually, this is such an interesting topic because everyone seems to be talking about it lately. Well, I guess it's our life, so it's probably not really a windy uppy question. It's more like, it's just like, it's really stupid. It's like, what is Krishna consciousness? I keep thinking about. But maybe it's a next week thing. I don't know. I'm thinking, what is Krishna consciousness? Like, the more we go, do seva, temple, devotees, and then actually, what is it? I mean, I have heard about it, but I don't know.
It's a good question. I mean, of course, there are different ways in which it can be, that can be answered. But what, like if we're just giving like a simple, concise answer, what really strikes me as the most significant point is that, and this is the answer Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave to this question once too, is it is reality, that we are becoming acquainted with the nature of reality on the deepest level. And we are being given entrance. Krishna consciousness, the teachings of Krishna consciousness are giving us entrance and connection to that highest reality, which in one word is based on the principles of love, sacrifice, service, dedication. Love, sacrifice to the highest entity. If I was to give a nutshell answer, that's what I would say. It's not like this is an idea or a concoction or a theory, but we're becoming acquainted with reality and how we can connect with it. That for me, that's the most, crucial point about what we're doing. Because otherwise in this world, we're living in a world of imagination. That's how most people are living. That's how I spend most of my day. My mind is going off into so many planes of imaginary meaning. So there's in the Chatur Shloki of Srimad Bhagavatam, one of them gives a definition of Maya, which is very helpful. It's spoken by Krishna himself, and he says that if someone perceives anything that is separate from my interest, they're in Maya. To perceive anything secondary to Krishna's will, Krishna's desire, Krishna's interest, that is Maya. That's an imposed interpretation upon the environment. That's that phrase of Swami Maharaj, right? An artificial imposition. everything other than Krishna's interest is an artificial imposition upon the environment. So like how, so most persons in the world, most of like where my head is going most of the time, it's going into concocted ideas, there's we all have our assorted bag of misconceptions and prejudices, concocted ideas which we're carrying around, and that's reality for us, but it's all a concoction, it's all false, it's all based on temporary ideas, illusory conceptions to do with the body, paraphernalia of the body, and everything pertaining to the body and the senses and the mind. The world is full of food for the body, the senses, and the mind. There's so much that we can feed into, and these aspects of ourselves become very fat and healthy and well nourished, and the real need of the soul, our real self, is starving, hungry. So for me, that's what's most meaningful about all of this, and that's what we felt in the presence of Srila Govinda Maharaj. He was firmly situated in reality. Now we're flickering, sometimes this way, sometimes that way. Sometimes we feel a little more inspiration for Krishna consciousness, and other times for 100 other directions. But we were so fortunate to witness in the divine person of our Gurudev. He was firmly situated in reality at all times. That's something very significant to contemplate. Where is he living? Where am I living? And I want to move to his world, which is the real world. I don't want to live in my imaginary world anymore. I don't want to live a world of my imagination and concoction anymore.
Yeah, thank you, Devi. Connected with what you were saying about service and that whole topic, like it's hard to know always what definitely will please Gurudev, what won't, and what to do sometimes, but just something to always think about, meditate on. And
Sridhar Maharaj, he would quote that line from Bhagavad-Gita, Nahi kalyana krit kaschid durgatim tata gachati. That sincerity is invincible. So we are imperfect beings, and it's natural that we will make mistakes, but we're figuring it out, with all sincerity. And we're not alone. And that's something that daily I have to remind myself. We're not alone. It's not dependent on us in the final picture. If we are trying, they will also come to help us. They are there. Are our guardians dead? Srila Maharaj, poses this question in Loving Search. Like, are our guardians living or are they dead? Like, do we believe that they're living? Can they not help us? So if they see that we are sincerely trying, they will also extend their grace and mercy to us and show the proper path for us. And we have to be alert also, to try to understand, what is the proper path? What is being revealed to me? What is the proper way? And when possible and where appropriate, we can also inquire from the proper persons. If we continue with our Shravan, we continue hearing, and we continue with Sadhu Sangha, Vaishnava Seva, we continue with all of these things, we will naturally be adjusted. We're only in danger if we go live in a cave and we cut ourselves off from Krishna will find a way to help us if we give him some opening, and so that opening comes when we're keeping association with the devotees, then there's an opportunity for the Lord to adjust us. Definitely the adjustment will come. It will come automatically. And we just have to learn how to deal properly with the adjustments that come, to recognize the adjustments when they're coming. We have to be awake and alert to be able to recognize that. And then grow, take the adjustment, the teaching, and grow. Well,
Thank you, Didi. Thank you so much.
we're happy to have your questions, Nanda Srupani. Happy to see you and the other devotees at Green Street, East London, and our international group here. Well, maybe we'll wrap things up, Chinmoy Prabhu. Anything you want to add?
Just on Facebook, we have Parma Priya in Mexico joined us, and Dikshavati, special guest Dikshavati Didi.
Oh, Chai. Hi, Dandavad Dikshavati Didi, one of our stalwart pillar Vaishnavas in the mission. And Parma Priya Devi Dasi, she's a dear sister. I remember her very well in Guadalajara. Happy to have you with us. Okay, well, I guess we'll close for today and look forward to seeing you all again. Same time next week.
Jai Vishakha Devi Dasi ki.
Jai Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Jai Bimala Didi ki Jai. Jai Chinmoy Dev Prabhu ki Jai. Jai Dwarkesh Prabhu ki Jai. Dandavad pranams to everyone. Vaishnava, all the assembled devotees and sincere seekers ki Jai. Jai Gaur Premanande.
Hari.